Andrew Paradise, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mishka. Glad to be here.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. There's 75 million reasons to talk about.
You're excited about the fund, I take it.
Well, listen, I'm looking at the news. Skill announces 75 million developer accelerator for skill-based mobile games. The accelerator will provide financial backing, operational resources, and expert guidance to bring competitive games to market. What is this? What's the core thesis behind the accelerator?
So, the accelerator aims to nurture and grow innovative game studios that can create unique, high quality, skill based games for the platform. The focus isn't only on bringing in new talent to the Skills ecosystem, but it's really about fostering strong relationships with both new and established developers to push the boundaries of what we consider skill gaming today. We have this core thesis that the next great skill game can be far larger than anything we've ever seen, and it may be in a genre that we've never tried. So we've never seen a lot of efforts into first-person shooters, into real-time strategy, into MOBAs. I know when you're nodding, these are all genres that you and I both would love to play. And the question is, can developers partner and use our platform to build a great example game in those genres? And so we're looking for developers who are going to evolve the future of the skill gaming space and can be that first breakout hit in a genre that may not exist yet. I think if you think about the breakaway success of PUBG and then Fortnite, the world had never even seen a battle royale before that. And so our goal is really to build this diverse portfolio of games that can engage the existing demographics on the platform, but also evolve which platform demographics will get. We're looking for developers with proven track records, ideally, who are going to bring engaging and high quality experience games to life on the platform. We also want to evaluate pitches based on potential. So the beauty of the program is it's open to everyone. I think the bar of what we'll look for in terms of a prototype, a sample will potentially change depending on that track record and background. We're definitely looking for developers who have live games operations experience. As we all know, live ops has become so critical in terms of generating revenue out of a existing title. And it's a mentality about how to engage the user post launch, how to continuously build the right kinds of content to continue that journey. So we encourage pitches that have a clear vision for not just the existing game that they'll launch or the first thing they'll launch, but really that journey and path of what they see for the user over their first 12 months, their first 24 months.
So I'm hearing MOBAs, RTSs, shooters. What kind of studios are you really looking for? Like, are you looking for hardcore studios or like when I think about skill games, I'm thinking about solitaire, I'm thinking about bingo, I'm thinking about more casual games. But you mentioned pretty, hardcore categories. Is that the focus or is that just an example?
Well, games with synchronous multiplayer mechanics where the players are competing in real time, we've seen that those have a significantly higher long-term retention curve than other games on the platform. So, games like a Domino's Gold or a Pool Payday where they have that synchronous mode. Now, when we used to talk about RTS, MOBA, FPS, those are certainly like from one consumer of one. Those are really exciting. Sample set one here, but I think when you think about things that should are most likely to work, I would look at any genre where the games are primarily ad supported. Those are certainly, I think, ripe for disruption as the monetization from skill-based gaming is substantially higher than ads. It is percentage points higher than in-app purchasing, but it's multiples of what you can generate with an ad-supported game. So when you're thinking about where can I acquire this audience and thinking about your go-to-market on your game, LTV over CAC is really what matters. I'd point at genres that haven't been tried now. Obviously, things like FPS, they're higher development costs, they're higher risk. You're really moving towards AAA, whereas the legacy on this platform has been simpler mobile games. So, I would think a studio pitching for funds from the developer program, they would really want to think about, hey, I'm going to do 3 titles. I might do one high risk title where I'm going to do that more AAA type effort, but I'm also going to look at a couple of things out of the ad supported world that haven't been tried before. We're certainly not looking for the next solitaire game on the platform. We have dozens of solitaire games, for example. We're really looking to see new types of creative coming to market, whether in the simpler, casual, hyper casual genres, or the ultra hardcore multiplayer synchronous games.
So basically, you're open up for new, and new means high production value games, but it can mean also what we consider as sort of a low production value games, the hybrid casual titles. The studios that might be currently working with the publishers like Voodoo or Rolex or you name it, these two sort of larger publishers, they can now also consider working maybe with Skillz as you allow a different type of monetization model that can be even higher monetization per user because you have real money gaming in it.
Yeah, and look, I think we haven't seen uh, much in terms of games like if you've played any of the examples of multiplayer Snake out
Hmm.
there on mobile. I'd argue that's pretty casual, and yet it fits that synchronous and multiplayer concept, right? It's playing multiplayer
Yeah.
Snake is very much something that I think could work on the platform that's never been tried. To give you just like
Hmm.
one of many examples of things that have never really never seen a skill based gaming execution. So I think they're having a set of logical inferences on why this new type of creative might work also are important to us in the pitches.
Is this program also intended for existing developers? Because I understand that there's a lot of different developers working with Skillz at the moment and have published under your platform.
It's available to both. So I would say it's not just capital for particularly I think for newer companies coming on board. They can expect that we'll be providing quite a bit beyond capital. We'll be providing expert guidance. So our team will provide to them deep expertise in game design, performance optimization, technical development to ensure the game not only meets high standards but really can thrive in its go-to-market. At the end of the day, if you don't have a set of channels and creatives that can really market the game effectively, you're not going to get that LTV over CAC to make the game successful. We provide beyond even just game design work. We'll provide data and analytics. We equip our developers with a lot of tools out of the box to track game performance, to really provide informed decision making that can drive growth and player engagement. We'll provide technical and operational support. So we provide all the infrastructure. So we run all of the managed hosting for all of the developers on the platform. Um, we really want them to focus on the core loop, the game mechanics, game development, content releases, content packs, post release, and live ops, without really getting bogged down in complex back end work. And of course, we're providing capital both to invest into content launches, but also into growth marketing of titles. So we have over a decade of experience in scaling user acquisition for mobile games. We've run budgets over 100 million per game. Um, we very much want to help the next generation of developer get that game to market effectively and at scale.
So basically, as an accelerator, you handle everything else except the fun game.
That's right. That's very much the way our platform works and the value prop we provide to the community. We're not the ones to find the fun, as they say.
Yeah.
You bring the fun to us, and we will help you do everything else in terms of operating and growing that business. And we'll be your long term partner and ensure that you can really focus on what you love most, which should be building great
Mhm.
games.
Attention app and game developers. Are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before, track global trends across app stores, analyze market leading in app purchase and in app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com. Kick-ass live ops need kick-ass tools. That's where Heroic Labs comes in. They just released a massive update to their Satori live ops platform. And having done my research, I can say with confidence that it's second to none. In a single product, you get everything you need, including event capture, player segmentation, feature flags, remote configuration, A/B testing, experimentation, live events calendar, messaging, retention graphing, analytics, and so much more. If you're serious about running live services in a game, get serious about the tools you use. Connect with Heroic Labs and make some serious cheese with your live ops.
And when we're talking about the investments, like, are these equity investments, or are these sort of publishing models where you're doing a revenue share? What is the structure of the investment?
Yeah. So it is somewhat idiosyncratic in terms of who the studio is and what they're bringing to the program. So when we think about the marketing investments, historically, the way we've run that, and I think we'll continue to run that, is we will have a certain amount of royalty to the studio based on the size of budget, because as everyone knows in the game community, when you first launch a title, you usually run a negative balance for some time as you're marketing and growing the title, and then you have a profit tail afterwards after you stabilize on marketing. So, I think we're going to continue to do marketing investments as we have, but obviously at scale here, we're going to be doing single game investments, multi-game investments, and studio investments.
So pretty much a common model where you approach both through investments into just the content and scaling that content, almost like a third party studio, then down to more equity investments if the studio is the type of a studio that you see yourself working with through multiple different games over the period of time.
I think that's right, and it really comes down to the size of the prize in skill gaming. The dynamic of the market. It's incredible how fast this industry is growing.
Well, before I ask you more about the market size and everything into that, like, I wanted to know, and I think it's important to know for people who are listening and considering working with or getting the investment from Skillz, is like, how do you measure success?
Yeah,
Is it, new players coming in? Is it, revenue or deposits in this case, or is it something else?
pretty straightforward. So we really focus on three metrics for success. So first KPI is retention. Second is sentiment engagement, and third is really looking at actual ARPU and revenue generation. So kind of expand on that a little bit. Like most businesses, and specifically in gaming, I think all of the gaming folks, including us, are quite analytical. We focus on a few KPIs or key performance indicators that really reflect the health and growth of games. So when we think about retention, we're looking at D1, we're looking at D7, we're looking at D30. We're mainly focused on partnering with developers who can generate D1 above a certain level. So we're looking for over 45% D1. When we see games at, we as a platform really cannot affect D1 meaningfully, is what we've seen historically. It's really up to the developer to build a game where people are going to play that game, try it, and they feel compelled to come back the next day. And if you can build a game where people get that sample and are excited to try it a second time, now we can do a lot there to help you extend the game to D7 and D30. I would argue D7 again, though, we have less influence than D30. We have a lot of influence as a platform in terms of live ops and systems, on Skillz that can help take a game that has a strong D1 and D7 to generate a really strong D30. So when I think about retention, that's what I'd say specifically. When you think about player sentiment engagement, we're always concerned about quality. So crashes per thousand, App Store stars, running Net Promoter Score on the games in terms of surveying the players. We're really trying to understand, how much did the players enjoy each session, and we're looking at session time per day. So that when I think about engagement, I'm thinking about like how many minutes a day is someone engaging in this game, and then what is their, what is the written feedback, so to speak. In terms of revenue model, when we look at ARPU, that actually really is a function of CAC, right? Because if you're going into a genre and you're doing, like in our example earlier, multiplayer Snake, your CAC is going to be significantly lower than a first-person shooter. I think that's a pretty fair statement. Therefore, ARPU can be significantly lower, and long-term LTV can be lower, right? It's really like when we partner with a development studio, it's really about getting that arbitrage of LTV over CAC. So I would just caution people on revenue model. It's really about as much about finding the right way to advertise a game and explain the core concepts to meet that user's expectation after they come in off of an advertising channel. In terms of one of the things that say, and I pick on even skill-based bingo, it's almost like a speed game in terms of the skill. And I think a lot of users may expect kind of a slower, more leisurely experience in bingo. And so, how do you communicate that in the advertising and on which channels? And I think strong proposals, strong pitches for funds will include like some information about demographic, channel, what kind of how would you advertise this game, and why do we think that will generate a certain theoretical CAC, and that will really help us understand what kind of LTV we need to generate off of the game to make it work.
So you're looking at pretty traditional metrics that any publisher would be looking at to basically see if you can scale the game or not.
Absolutely. I look. One of the things that I think is so powerful about Skillz, it is very similar to publishing a game in the free-to-play world, in the paid world prior to free-to-play. It's a new monetization model that, it's an old monetization model, to be fair. It's been around a long time. The idea of using it to monetize a game as a platform is a relatively new thing with Skillz. It's been, we're coming up on we're 12 years in business now, coming in year 13. I think many people aren't even aware that they can use a software development kit to run skill-based gaming, and instead of it being an entire business focus, it's a go-to-market monetization strategy, just like free-to-play, just like upfront paid titles. And so that's the real exciting thing here. I think as the world becomes more aware of this, the market is going to continue to expand in skill-based gaming, because frankly, when we say skill-based gaming, we've always sort of shied away from that at Skillz. We've often referred to esports and to even mobile as casual esports. And the reason I say that is when you say skill-based gaming, it's like you sort of think of like taking a video game and trying to modify it to make it almost like a real money gaming experience, and to shift it from being, call it very skill-based to being, kind of at the border of skill versus chance in terms of what's legally permissible. So if you know about the predominance test, that's like the number one test for skill-based games. That's where skill predominates 75% of the time over chance. We actually measure that mathematically on every game that we run. But that, I think skill-based gaming is really that named as an industry because of that line in the law. Whereas when you think about casual esports and you talk about what that means, you're really saying, okay, video games back in the arcade day, like back in the mainframe world and physical arcade, they were really built around like the best creatives we came up with were around competition. They were, as simple as, I don't know if you've ever seen King of Kong on Netflix, for example, but like this like idea that we're going to play for best score, you literally are spending $800 in quarters to try to get your name, your initials on the top 10 leaderboard on Pac-Man. And that's like that like basic like sense of competition is really at the heart of the beginning of video games. We think that building monetization that is competition centric is what players, many players want. In fact, when we were coming up and starting the company ahead of getting public in our IPO, we ran a series of primary research studies that showed that approximately 40% of people are willing to pay to play and compete for prizes in video games. And that those numbers continue to flow through. It's why we think this is a better way to monetize video games. So it's about
Mm.
getting artists around the world making all these great games, getting them paid for their work, and getting and introducing a monetization model that's centric to that type of work, and trying to really focus on this idea that people love to compete. That is so much of the history of video games, and that's why I react to this like casual esports versus saying skill based games. It sort of leads you to a different conclusion of what the future of content will be about in this space.
Hmm.
This podcast is brought to you by AppsFlyer. In today's digital world, understanding your app's journey from discovery to download is more than just insightful, it's essential. Enter AppsFlyer, the leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics that allows you to measure the full potential of your marketing efforts, making every ad dollar work smarter. With AppsFlyer, that's your new reality. Dive deep into data-driven insights that reveal exactly where your users come from and how they'll interact with your app. AppsFlyer, where your app's potential meets performance.
You mentioned multiple times, the potential size of the market if more good games are being made as skill games or real money's gaming titles. What's the current size of the market? How much money are we talking about here?
So I'll share some research from Fortune. So Fortune Business Insights report had the skill gaming market at 31 billion in 2022 and growing to 85 billion by 2030. So 13% a year. I think most excitingly, it's not just a 13% growth rate, but think about the size of the prize. You're talking about 55 billion of new market opportunity by 2030. And so there's an incredible amount of opportunity here. In North America right now, it's the dominant region at 28% market share. There's a lot of opportunity to both expand in North America, but also Western Europe and the rest of the world. LATAM, for example, is very untouched. And I think when you think about even regions like EMEA, you can really think about skill-based gaming providing a RMG product that is permissible in all religions, unlike gambling. I think skill-based gaming, the LTV, to give you an idea, the LTV for skill-based games on a user, it can range from as low as $20 up to well over $100. Because competitive players are willing to spend actually a lot more money to improve their skills, to enter tournaments, to unlock rewards, to get real world loyalty. And one of the things in the skill-based gaming world, or casual esports, as I often call it, it's this idea that, like Ready Player One, you're actually earning things that you can have in real life and redeem. So you're playing in a game, but actually potentially winning physical things that are shipped to your house. I don't know if you remember there's a suit that the kid gets in Ready Player One, and he wins it. And so, it's like, if you think about skill-based gaming and that as low as 20 to up over 100, and you compare that even to free-to-play games, it's it's a very strong value prop, right? You're talking multiples of what you can do even in free-to-play.
And when we're talking about the sizing of the skill gaming market, what elements does it take to it? Is that only mobile, or is it other type of a skill games? Because 31 billion sounds like a lot.
So we actually have recently entered web as well. And when you think skill games, you should also consider everything from DraftKings original business to Prize Picks. Skill gaming encompasses all these different types of activities. We do now provide web as well. So players, sorry, not players, developers can launch web-based properties with us. We actually got that live in Q4, and I think a lot of people don't know that we now support
Mm.
not just mobile but also web.
So the market is a little bit bigger. And then when you're talking about real prices, that's a sweepstakes, right? Is that what it's called?
When I'm talking about
Sweepstakes. When people can receive real life prizes from playing the games, that's sweepstake.
no,
Sweepstake.
that's skill based gaming. Sweepstakes, a sweepstakes model is free to enter, or you can if you can buy entries into it online and like let's call it a social sweeps casino execution. That would be a model where you can pay some amount of money to buy entries, or you could actually, you literally could like handwrite in and send in entries, and then you can win real prizes. So sweeps model is a model where it's free to enter, or you can enter more easily, potentially through a different mechanism like online, and then win real
Mm.
prizes. Skill based gaming model is you're paying an entry fee, you're paying a percentage of that entry fee to Skillz and our developer partners, and then you're actually competing to win, monetary prizes, physical things. We've had people compete for, a Ford Mustang. I don't
Oh.
know if you knew that we've actually had tournaments to win a Ford Mustang, or we've had tournaments to win, iPads, and I don't know, you name it, physical object. But in terms of skill based gaming is where there is, to use a kind of technical legal terms, there's consideration, meaning you're paying something in. There is the outcome is determined by skill, not chance, and then there is a payout.
Mm.
Whereas a gamble or a real money gaming would be consideration, paying in, the outcome determined by chance versus skill, and then a payout. And so that's the real difference between skill based gaming and gambling. Um, Whereas a sweeps model, it's about no money necessary to enter, a random outcome, and then a payout.
That makes sense. And so basically in a skill game, the people who are on top on the leaderboard are receiving prizes, not just the top spenders.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
And so you have people competing to win prizes. We run a loyalty program where you earn points every time you play, regardless of whether or not you win. You can redeem those points just like an airline program or anything else to get physical merchandise, trips, actually airline tickets is something we offer, for example.
And how do you see the skill gaming model evolve during the next 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years?
Well, look, I think one of the things that we saw that was really interesting about the bingo category is after that developer launched with us, there was a flood of companies trying to build, a skill game, everything that Skills builds, the entire skill gaming stack, plus the game, entering and competing. We're a much bigger company than when that happened. I think we're much better enabled if a developer discovers Fortnite on our platform to ensure that developer owns the majority of market share, because we can execute, everything from marketing channels to business development partnerships so much faster now. We're just a much bigger enterprise. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see developers look at this 75 million and say, hey, this is a very, it's a low price way or low or no cost way to try expanding game genres. And I think trying to expand beyond the traditional games of poker and trivia, bingo and card games, you're going to see things like Domino's Gold. You're going to see, maybe the next. I mean, I'll give you one. We don't have a great golf game. Okay,
Mm.
that's crazy. Golf is all about playing skins out on the golf course.
Yeah.
And people say, well, why would two billionaires each wager $1 over a game of golf? And it's like, because having stakes increases the anticipation, increases the adrenaline, increases the victory. Frankly, when you take that dollar off of that other billionaire, it's like It's not going to change either person's life, but the symbol
Yeah.
of taking that prize, I think it really it augments the competition, and that's what we think, and that's what we've seen through our research is that when you're delivering that enhanced feeling for the player, that increase in adrenaline, you're actually making it more fun. You're taking something that is fun and making it a lot more fun. And that's really what
Yeah.
Skillz is all about. It's about augmenting the art rather than competing with the art with interruption advertising or locking people out of the art with IAP. And so you're going to see new genres. I hope people are listening and saying, "I'm going to build that golf game." I'll tell you another one.
Yeah.
Where are the racing games? There are no racing games. No racing, and racing is
Yeah.
another one where I'll tell you, I'm in Las Vegas right now. Every weekend there are illegal street races up in just outside of town where people race for their cars. And you'd
Huh.
probably say, well, why do they do
Really?
that? Yeah, that's a true story. Yeah, it's crazy.
Like in the movies, like in the Fast and Furious.
That is actually Fast and Furious is based off of.
Really?
Like, yeah, there's
Oh, no.
really there is a place in the desert here where they do it. And it's totally crazy.
Absurd.
Yeah. It's kind of awesome. But my point
Yeah.
being this: that like we're going to see these new genres over the next 3 to
Mhm.
5 years. We're going to see a lot more demographics engaging in skill-based gaming. The reality of the higher LTV over other ways of monetizing is going to continue to compound in the industry. It's going to continue to change the expectation for playing competitive video games. And I think global reach, you're going to see new regions. Like I think LATAM and EMEA are underserved.
Attention app and game developers, are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before, track global trends across app stores, analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com.
And so currently that means that the main audience is USA. And are these games, skill games, available on both platforms, or are they iOS only and just
Uh,
web?
they're available on both iOS, Android, and also on web. On Android, they go to market because I don't know if the audience is familiar with Google Play's terms around skill-based gaming, but they've not allowed skill-based gaming for quite a number of years. So the go-to-market on Android is either direct load or via Samsung. Um, I think as a result, you see less Android users adopting than being able to go through like the actual Apple App Store.
Hmm. I have to ask you about bots. That seems to be a hot topic for Skillz. If you read the news, you've been litigating other skill gaming companies for the usage of bots. Can you explain Skill's stance on this?
Yeah. So this is really critical for us, and I want to simplify it. Skills does not allow bots. Every time a player competes to win a prize, it's won by a real live player. They're competing against real live other players, humans, not computers. There are games like where you're playing a game of solitaire where the deck is being dealt by a computer, but the actual competition is who can get the better score against the computer, who's dealing this deck, and they both players, both humans, get the same deck dealt to them by the computer. So when we talk about bots being used in games on platform, if you're playing a game, I'll give you an example. If you're playing, I don't know if you've ever heard of duplicate bridge. Actually, some of the technology that I patented and pioneered came from reading about duplicate bridge tournaments. Duplicate bridge is where I'm playing three other players in bridge, and you're at a different table playing three other players in bridge, and we're actually competing against each other. And the players at those tables are running the same deal against us. And so duplicate bridge is this idea of, I'm playing Donkey Kong and you're playing Donkey Kong. The computer is going to generate the same, barrels being thrown at the player, the same obstacles for both players, and you're comparing score. Um,
Hmm.
Skillz has a lot of games that run on a score compare. That's like a very common thing. Uh, we have a smaller set of games that are now being built and are showing to be even higher retention, where you actually play live versus asynchronously. So if you think about that Donkey Kong example, I'm going to play for my highest score, then you're going to come up and play for your highest score, and whoever got the best high score out of their turn, that's the winner of our competition. That's what, when we say asynchronous play, and in that example, the only kind of like computer interaction is the computer generating the map and the barrels that the Donkey Kong is throwing. And if we find evidence of bot fraud, we are all over bringing that to the relevant authorities in countries where we can get legal action, into making it aware to consumers that certain companies or games are engaging in bot fraud. Because at the end of the day, it's not fair competition. And this is a company that we founded on this concept of ensuring that every competition is fair. Fair competition is what we are all about. And I think that's a very important thing as a platform business building the industry, that both players and developers can trust that every competition is fair, that you're not going to ever play a bot, you're not going to play a pre-recorded match or some kind of gimmick where really it's a computer that's determining whether or not you won. In our games, every game you're playing, it's all about what you do versus what the other human does to win. And that's, I think, what makes it so exciting, right? It's like any mistake you make playing, that could cost you the game. Or any great move you make, that might win you the game. And again, I think that's, going back to the billionaires playing for a dollar. I just think that's what makes Skillz so engaging. It's this knowledge and trust from the players that they're going to engage in fair competition. And even when you lose, you have opportunities to learn and get better at the game.
Hmm. Can I ask you about your startup journey? Because like you've been heading Skillz for over 13 years,
Yes.
and you've gone like any company goes through their ups and downs, and but you've gone from a startup that has many downs
Yeah.
and some ups, but you've essentially had the perfect journey because you start a startup and you IPO it. That's I mean that's every investor's dream if you ask them, and I don't know if it's founder's dream, but it's definitely a big element out of that. So my question is more like you've had ups, you've had downs, you've had them early, you had them late, both ups and downs. What have been the sort of a biggest lessons from the 13 years of experience heading Skillz, publicly listed company?
It's a bumpy ride to the top, and you never know where that top may be. Our journey. I was telling our staff, because we, post COVID, like many businesses, have had a lot of problems with labor, with different types of disruptions in our business, and we've been getting the business back on track these last couple of years, and back into healthy growth. I think the thing I've told our staff the entire time is like, what they weren't here for the four other times in the last 13 years where we faced bankruptcy, two of those within a week of going bankrupt. And so, it's all perspective, right? I think the lesson that I would say is I try not to get too down during the lowest of lows or get too excited or optimistic during the highest of highs. It's really about this idea of persistence and adaptability. Early on, convincing investors this was going to be a big sector was incredibly hard. The market pundits said this is a $200 million industry that's going to be $300 million by 2030. And so you're projecting like a tiny amount of growth in almost 20 years of market
Yeah.
execution. And we said, look, like skill gaming hasn't even scratched the surface of what it could be. This is going to be a tens of billions dollar industry. And here we are today, 13 years later, and it's a $30 billion sector and growing, right? And growing to potentially 80 billion by 2030. So, I think that was very challenging in attracting investors. You know, Imagine if you're someone being asked to put millions of dollars into a sector where it's supposed to experience 100 million of growth in over 10 years. Probably not going to write a check. We really stuck with our vision and belief in the long-term potential of combining gaming with real money prizes in a way that was fair, competitive, sustainable. And we scaled and we scaled. And we actually, my proudest moment wasn't going public in the last 13 years. It was winning the Inc. 5000 as the fastest revenue growth business in the US. We went from 108K once we were up in 2013 to 54 million in 2016. In 2016, from 54 million, went to 2.6 billion by 2021 in terms of gross. And, it was a movement. It is a movement. The industry has grown larger and larger. I know people often think about, should I execute directly and build my own skill-based game? I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're thinking, hey, maybe I should start a skill-based gaming company. What I would tell you is I really believe that we can offer a very, very compelling buy versus build for the rev share that we take. And I would invite every developer who's listening to this to really think about having that conversation with us about what they want to build. Realize that we're going to continue with, like, we've survived a long time in this sector. We know a lot about it. Hopefully, we can be helpful beyond just capital. And I think, as we look at the path forward on Skillz, I'm actually more excited now than I've been in years, because we have 300 million on our balance sheet as a public company. We have an incredible number of partners who have built really meaningful businesses with us. And, frankly, I often think about how we're only a few steps down the journey of this path when I look at things like first person shooter and MOBAs and, Snake, racing, golf. There's so many things that haven't been tried. So, I guess my key takeaway over these last 13 years is be resilient in your beliefs, be adaptable as you get new information about the market space you're in and what is and isn't working. It doesn't have to be your first great idea to win. It can be your 50th. And one of the people always say, well, when you found Skillz, isn't the same thing today? I'm like, dude, if I had known how hard it would be to build Skillz, I would have done something else.
Well, that's not an uncommon sentiment. Are you happy with the company going public? How would I reframe this question? I would say, did going public change your role as a CEO in a positive way or a negative way?
No. I think there are some meaningful benefits to being public if it's the right type of business and approached in the right way. There are obviously a number of drawbacks. Look, going public, it was a significant shift in my role as CEO. I'm air quoting here for people who are listening. As a startup founder, I was really doing everything from I was our first engineering manager. I was our first product manager. I was QA. There were a lot of different roles really in product development that I was filling. As the business has scaled up, I've had to step further and further away from that and really focus on running the business as opposed to being in the business. And so, I think my role has become more about strategic leadership, about stakeholder management, balancing the wants of our shareholders, the regulatory requirements, the long-term vision of the business. There's I'd say a meaningful transition in going public in terms of how you can communicate even internally as well as publicly. So, I spend a lot more time, for example, building relationships with analysts on Wall Street now, with investors than I would have historically when we had a much smaller investor base and no analyst coverage. Other things I'd say about being public, I mean, you just have to accept some very significant costs to your business. It's arguably 10 to 15 million a year just in, call it like insurance, accounting, legal. Like there's an incremental 10 to 15 there, where I would say more like 15, as we're a younger public company and still really getting our stride. We're not Apple. Haven't been around in public for 30 years. So you have those costs. You have, I'd say, change in expectation with all of your workforce, where now all of a sudden performance is measured daily, hourly, when the market's open, and I think that can create challenges. And so I'd say there's hidden costs in people operations, in finance, in even internal comms, and how we run our quarterly business reviews, how we engage with our employees and talk about what's happening in the stock market.
Well, Andrew, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know you're a very busy person, and I think it's important to highlight these type of elements that are happening in the market when somebody is putting some serious money behind games for them to be released is a positive news. So thank you for a very positive podcast and for answering some difficult questions other than about Skillz.
All right. Well, thank you, Mishka. Thank you for having me. And, we're super excited about the Developer Accelerator program. Hope that your listeners will give us a shot and have a conversation.
All right, this is right before GDC. If you're coming to GDC, there's a link below in the description where you can apply for the Skillz Accelerator and meet with the Skillz team at GDC or after GDC. So thanks everybody for listening, and thank you, Andrew, for coming on.
Thanks. Bye.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.